Good morning, everyone. And a huge thank you, as ever, to dear Jennifer, Jonathan, and the bench team for inviting me to share some important work that Hilton are doing on reducing food waste. Today, using the Hilton Green Ramadan initiative as a case study, I hope to demonstrate the win-win of operating sustainably. Customers are voting with their feet, opting for companies that worked with fact-based accountability and integrity. Estimates reveal that 8 out of 10 global leisure travelers see sustainability as essential, and 30% of Fortune 500 companies have made sustainability commitments. When it comes to Hilton's own commercial success, of our $11 billion valuation, $500 million was attributed directly to our ESG strategy, Travel with Purpose. Sustainability can drive commercial success by fostering consumer loyalty, driving cost efficiencies, enhancing brand value as a differentiator, attracting investment, cost efficiencies, and positioning companies for long-term success in a rapidly changing business environment, especially where regulation is concerned. According to the latest Global Food Index report, a staggering 1 billion meals are wasted per day. We know that food wastage accounts for 8 to 10% of total carbon emissions. It is also a $1 trillion problem. Green Ramadan was conceptualized to reduce food waste during iftars and suhoors, understanding that the United Nations Environment Programme food waste increases by 25 to 50% during all religious holidays. Last year, we launched a power partnership with Global Ambitions, bringing together Winnow, Artificial Intelligence Technology, and United Nations Environment Programme West Asia to drive data and deepen insight into how food waste challenges during the holy month. Food waste is proliferated on account of the following barriers: lack of awareness, unhelpful social norms, misaligned incentives, and defective choice architecture. The key to change is behavioural intervention. A lot of waste is being driven at the consumption end, and hospitality is a setting where behaviours could really be altered with a more mindful approach. Each of the hotels installed production and plate waste Winnow AI systems in their operations, as well as implementing behavioural nudges and interventions for both team members and consumers. They also closed the loop across the food value chain through local sourcing, sustainable gastronomy, plastic elimination, diversion by food donations, and composting, taking a fully circular approach. As with anything, teamwork and collaboration are the key to success. The operational framework brought together corporate stakeholders and the hotel teams who committed to a rigorous meeting structure and regular reporting, working with Winnow to faithfully report data and respond immediately to insights by making critical interventions. By forensically understanding what guests discarded on their plates, we made operational adjustments by changing service style or through menu engineering and portion control without negatively impacting the guest experience. We then used emotive messaging across the customer journey to inspire action. Under the UNIP mantra, half the food waste and double the blessings, the message was placed across the dining environment at key impact points, as well as being messaged through social media and other visual channels across the customer journey. Our chefs, supported by our front-of-house teams, played a pivotal role when it came to driving interventions that then created a default sustainable living scenario for our guests. These interventions were many and varied, driving plant-based innovation, making changes to sequence of service, adding live stations, making buffet design changes, using zero waste techniques to extend the utility of produce, reducing portion sizes, creating engaging staff cafeteria activations, and crucially, driving team member engagement and training. The 2023 campaign, which was initially in 3 hotels only, it served 27,000 guests during Iftar and Suhoor during Ramadan 2023, was able to break through the food waste awareness barriers with an educational and interactive approach. This pioneering initiative resulted in a 61% reduction in food waste, which equated to 8,600 meals across these 3 hotels and prevented almost 5 tons of waste and over 14 tons of carbon emissions, with a financial saving of over $40,000 in 3 hotels during Iftar. This year, in Ramadan 2024, we've now scaled Green Ramadan to 32 hotels in 7 countries across EMEA, and I'm delighted to say Asia Pacific as well, with Malaysia joining suit, serving, during Iftar, 239,000 customers during Iftar and Suhoors. We will shortly be sharing both the challenges, success stories, and results of driving impact at scale in the form of a co-authored white paper with Winnow and United Nations and a toolkit for the industry with our partners later this year. You need to change the slides, gents. With even small actions are taken at scale, they can have a big impact. And from our many ESG initiatives that we are running in the food and drink space across Hilton EMEA, our success depends on the company we keep. Partnership and collaboration is key to success. And when it comes to managing and mitigating food waste, we would not be able to enact our commitment to halve the waste to landfill by 2030 by implementing a food waste reduction program in every kitchen without the support of so many of our partners. We see time and time again, the only limit to our impact is our commitment and imagination. And when it comes to tackling climate change, there really is no time to waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Emma. And I have to say, it's really impressive the work that you've been doing, not just recently, but over the years. I mean, since your time with Jumeirah, you've really been a champion in terms of sustainability within the industry and bringing it to the forefront. So it's...
Thank you. My team, actually. I'm blessed to have some very good people.
Yes, that's true. But I think you really have taken it on board as a cause and championed it and brought it to the forefront of the industry. And it's such a pleasure to be able to showcase what you're doing and kind of build on it year after year. Because when we were here 12 months ago, we were talking about the program that you were putting in place. And so now to see the results is really quite astounding.
Yeah.
So if you can share with us a little bit the impact of the initiative that you've done in KSA, that would be great.
Right. Well, in 2023, with Green Ramadan, we launched it in the Hilton Riyadh. And in their beautiful Ramadan tent Imara, which is like super busy, it can do anything from 1,200 to 1,600 covers during Iftar and Suhoor. So it's a really big operation. We implemented that full closed loop circle. We baselined our waste data. And remember, we're measuring production waste in the kitchen, but we're also measuring waste in terms of grams per cover. Using technology at front of house, and we baseline the data, and we get all the plate waste. And we saw, despite doing that whole process, and despite having the UNEP messaging, and we saw actually that despite achieving incredible grams per cover reduction in the 60%, as I say, across the 3 hotels, we achieved a 61% reduction in consumer waste in the iftars. We also saw an increase of 30% in the average spend. And all our guest satisfaction scores were not impacted at all. In fact, we achieved incredible guest satisfaction scores. So it showed us that taking this more mindful approach and engaging with guests over food waste, even in such a busy buffet environment. So this year, we've launched Green Ramadan. We've taken it to 6 hotels in KSA. And we've seen that we've served over 100,000 guests during iftar in those hotels. And we've actually seen a further 6% increase in our top line and a 5% increase in spend per head during iftar and suhoors in those Ramadan tents during the holy month. I'd like to also point out that the cluster from Mecca this year has been incredibly successful. In those hotels in Mecca alone, in Mecca Convention Centre, for example, we've served over 12,000 covers during the holy month just in our Ramadan tent, and we've still achieved incredible food waste results, which we'll be publishing, I probably think, next week. But, I mean, you know, we went from 3 hotels doing Green Ramadan to 13 hotels doing Green Breakfast at COP28, where we achieved a 62% reduction in breakfast waste in 13 weeks up to COP28. We then presented those results with the United Nations in the Blue Zone at COP28, and now we've managed to scale Green Ramadan to 32 hotels across 7 countries. Now, the results won't be as staggering in terms of double-digit. They are still double-digit, I'd like to say, but remember, we've gone at scale and at volume, so it's big impact. It's a lot harder to drive. But what's really interesting is when we baselined our Ramadan data of measurement in week 1, we were considerably lower across 32 hotels in 7 countries than we exited in week 4 in Green Ramadan last year. So it just goes to show that that continual focus and working with the hotels and learnings and sharing it, and remember I said we're going to share an industry toolkit. We already started week 1 lower than week 4 last year in more hotels.
But I think that's what's amazing is because you've done it in such a structured fashion, you've captured all the data and you've shared it. So you really have provided something that your hotels can then look at and say, okay, I can see where they have not only saved in terms of food waste, but also, I mean, the numbers that you're talking about, 39% increase in revenue and 30% increase in average per head spend. That's phenomenal. So if you go to a property and give them that kind of information, that's incredibly powerful, I imagine.
Which is also why we were so, you know, I talked about the barriers to food waste is lack of awareness and one of the, you know, unhelpful social norms. We were really worried in the holy month in Ramadan 23, which is why we partnered with United Nations, and they had such great partnership and support from Chef Leila Fatala, who was a huge influencer, and she's their chef waste advocate. And we used such mindful messaging, and even during the holy month, guests who had been fasting and coming to break their iftar, and, you know, where it's traditionally, you know, people want to celebrate and enjoy the iftar experience, but people started to become really engaged and really proud of reducing food waste on their plate. And we thought if we could do it in the holy month, which is why we're inspired to do green breakfasts as well. But we found, like, you know, you talk about data and insights, you know, we found that, for example, bread and pastries was the biggest waste in plate waste in our restaurants. So we immediately, for example, in Waldorf Astoria Lusail in Green Ramadan 23, we took the bread off the display section, and we offered a la carte bread for our guests and only had the Arabic flatbread. We dropped our food waste immediately, plate waste, by 74% by doing that one action. And
That's
guests
incredible.
that wanted bread asked for it a la carte, and then they were delighted because it was brought hot. We then found that vegetables and meat were the next biggest waste areas, so which is why we go more plant forward, and we almost allowed, by positioning the buffet and how we presented things, for guests to unconsciously make climate-friendly choices.
So it's kind of a 360 approach.
It's that whole circular loop.
Exactly.
And all that infographic and everything I shared is in the public space. It's in the public arena. And I can't wait to publish our report with UNIP.
And let me ask you, have you had much engagement from other hotel brands to take on the cause within, because you've provided so much data and much insights in kind of very generous fashion.
I don't think publicly, but yes, certainly privately. And I know that we are driving a real wave to look at local sourcing, you know, and look at food waste in buffet environments, because buffet environments are necessary. We have the Hilton London Metropole or the Hilton Riyadh here that I talked about, and our big box hotels. Customers want breakfast at 9 or 10 o'clock on a leisure stay, and you just have to have an operation. But for example, in Green Breakfast, the data and insights from Winnow, we started to learn the optimal size to bake a croissant to. We started to learn that if we baked a croissant in our buffet...
size?
I can't remember the exact one, so I won't quote, but I know that we learned that if we made our croissants 11 grams smaller when we were cooking them, we lost less waste. We learned the optimal size to make donuts, because everybody takes one donut and doesn't eat the whole thing, so we made them smaller. We learned how to slice our fruit, because we started to learn that when we slice fruit in a restaurant, we slice it like a pineapple or a mango, and the ends, guests left the ends and they got thrown in the bin, or they had to get dehydrated. So when we chopped and cubed and put it in a bowl, guests didn't know what they were having, and we got less fruit waste. We learned to go eggs a la minute. We learned so much, and data and insights. To Catherine has, as she opened her presentation this morning for Hotstats, without data, you're just another person with an opinion.
No, it's true. I think that's so fascinating. So kind of from your team, because you mentioned your team has been so crucial in delivering, can you share some of the most impactful actions taken by team members?
I think the first thing is team member training and getting team members engaged. And I was in Saudi in Ramadan recently, and it was so lovely because I was talking to lots of our women chefs and Saudi women chefs, and they were all saying that they were taking the learnings to the home, because we know that, for example, when I worked with the UAE government at COP28, they want to focus on the HoReCa sector, but their next area of focus is household waste as well, which is huge. So it was team member training. It was executive chefs we had executive chefs who issued an organisation chart of what chefs and what team members were responsible for what part of the process of Green Ramadan or Green Breakfast, so giving accountability, sharing best practice, and it was for leaders to attend the key meetings with Winnow and my team, because that's where we shared the data and insights and the learnings. So those were the key messages. But, we had an executive chef who talked about a paradigm shift. I mean, we had Hilton Riyadh, the day I was there, I think they did something like 1,600 covers for buffet in iftar, and their grams per cover wastage on that one day on their plates was less than 15 grams. Can you imagine a buffet environment where the average going back on a plate thrown at the end of the day is 15 grams? I mean, it's like that.
That really is an achievement.
Now, that wasn't every day, but that was the day I was there, and obviously that will be measured up in the stats.
So what's next?
So we're taking the learnings from Green Ramadan 23 and Green Ramadan 24 and all the work that my team are doing with obviously our partners at Winnow, our local sourcing partners at Fresh on Table, etc. Because we know that local sourcing helps in terms of elongating the shelf life, reducing carbon emissions. We're looking at Green Breakfast and all the learnings we learned from there. The learnings we took to COP28 and the partners we met there, and we're going to delve into the data. And the plan now is we are going to create an industry white paper and roadmap, which we will share. So we're going to do a co-authored white paper and toolkit with the United Nations. We are in talks with some very prestigious academic institutes that want to become involved in our study that I just can't share yet, but we're talking about globally acclaimed academic institutes. We have been now noted in the United Nations Food Waste Index report for all this work.
Congratulations.
And basically, I want to continue to inspire the industry to change, so everybody's not out there scoffing food, but they're in this room discussing how we reduce food wastage in the world. And
I agree.
That's what I hope to do with myself and my team. So thank you for the opportunity to share it.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you for the work you're doing in the industry. It's really meaningful.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Join me
Thank you, everybody.